Most podcasts die within the first 90 days, not because the content isn't good, but because there's no strategy behind it. Which is why today we're going to break down the 4 pillars of podcasting. The coaches and consultants that put these pillars in place are able to launch and leverage podcasts that actually grow their business. You're going to want to stick around for this one because we break it down step by step. So, hey, welcome back to another Coaching with Content podcast. Glad that you are here. And as always, we got Dustin. Dustin, good to have you here. And I don't know if you've noticed this recently, Dustin, but as I look around the landscape of kind of life and content and business and all of that kind of stuff, we seem to find ourselves in what I've kind of been coining recently and had a good response of, with that being a trust recession. And in a trust recession, I think with the boom of AI and all the things that are happening, it's really easy to kind of start to get a little bit skeptical of things. And
for sure. Yeah.
I don't know if you've been like this at all, but I didn't notice this until I a few weeks ago, I was scrolling on, I think it was Instagram or something, right? And a quote graphic came up. I'm a huge Indianapolis Colts fan. I don't know if you know this, but I'm a huge Indianapolis Colts fan. And a quote came up from either one of the owners or one of the players, right? And I'm reading the quote and I'm like, oh my gosh, like I can't believe I can't believe that did they really say this? Like, and now all of a sudden I'm really second guessing. I'm looking at it going, wait a minute. They didn't say it. Like, I'm now questioning everything, right? Or if you've scrolled through social media and there's a video even, and you're like, it doesn't look quite right. Is that AI? I don't know if that's AI or not. Like, I'm finding myself even questioning or looking at things a little more skeptical when it comes to the content that's being put in front of me. Have you found yourself like that at all, or is it just me?
Yeah, no, for sure on the quotes. Luckily, some of the AI videos that are going out, there's an app right now. I forget what it's called. It's like Soho or something like that. But it's like an AI video app or whatever. And luckily, some of that stuff is like you can easily, like, it has the little watermark on it that says this was made with this app or whatever.
Yeah.
100%, yeah. Especially in the sports world, someone said something, someone's leaving, someone's getting hired. You're just like, what? And they're like, no way. Then I just immediately look at the source and go, if I've never heard of you, then I don't trust you.
And that's where, and it's funny, man. And maybe I should have been more skeptical back in the day, but I never saw myself like that way up until recently, with the boom of AI, with all the things that are going on, and us being in the content game. It's like, now I've started to kind of go, oh, I don't know. And so I've been talking to a lot of guys recently using that phrase, trust recession. We're in a trust recession. And they're like, oh man, yes, we are. I've never said it that way, but we really are in this trust recession. And so I think for us here at 1898, and as the more content that we help businesses create and help coaches get their message out and build their brand, we've kind of taken this establishment of, we really need to see long form video content be the play to build authority, to build your brand, and to ultimately build your business.
Build trust.
To build trust, yes. Yes. And I think the reason that we're seeing that shift is because ultimately what we just explained about what we're seeing and kind of it's like we're kind of skeptical of the short form quick hits. And I think
all the bite-sized stuff.
Yeah, I think we're just tired. If I'm honest, it's just like it's just overload. And I think we're seeing this shift into, okay, let's have more real conversations. You and I, Dustin, sit down and have a dialogue about this kind of piece. And over the 20, 30, 40-minute conversation, people kind of settle in a little bit. They're like, oh yeah, we're able to tell more stories. We're able to be more nuanced with what we do. And ultimately, that builds trust, that builds authority, that builds a little bit of rapport with those viewing and watching this, right? Wouldn't you say that?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think
Yeah.
the more you can hear from somebody in any context, whether it's in person or video or audio, but the more that you can hear them, the more that trust rapport is built up. And
Yeah.
so we've talked about it many times on this podcast, but that's why consistency is such a big key,
Mhm.
and being able to build trust and authority with your audience.
Yeah. 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 And so with that being said, Dustin, I think a lot of the clients that we work with, and even ourselves, you have a podcast, I have a podcast. The thing that we're telling everybody to kind of lean into, if they're comfortable with it, is to starting a podcast. And I know the joke is literally everybody has a podcast.
Everyone.
Everybody and their brother has a podcast. It's a cool and hip thing to do. And often we might look at it and go, well, I'm not going to be Joe Rogan. I'm not going to be the top hitters in the podcast. So why would I even do that? And I think it's easy to kind of shut it down quickly because you go, well, I don't want to just add to the noise. But today I want to walk us through 4 pillars of podcasting. 4 pillars of podcasting. And yeah, it's fun to say, Dustin.
It is fun to say.
It's fun to say. And yeah, anyway, we're going to walk through these 4 pillars, and this really is to help you grow the podcast. These are things that need to be established in order for you to attract the right people. And when we say start a podcast and attract the right people, that doesn't mean that it's going to be millions and millions of people, right? You just need the right person to come across your conversation and to go, man, I really love this. I love what they're about. I love their positioning and how they put them, how they put their thoughts and ideas together. And now I want to engage with this person more and ultimately do business with this person over time. And so today our goal is to walk through these 4 pillars of podcasting that you can look, if you've either started or you're restarting or you already have a podcast. Dustin, you might even be doing this today, even after 100+ episodes of your own podcast, looking at yours going, do I have these 4 pillars? Because this is what podcast growth is all about.
Yep.
Any thoughts on that before we dive into these pillars?
I was just thinking the imagery for me is, every solid table, every solid chair has those 4, legs holding it up. And these are the ones that, like, without one of these, it'll be a bit wobbly. It'll be a bit off. It'll be a bit, I don't know if unstable, instable.
Yeah. Unstable is how I would say it.
Sure.
But I don't know how to say repurposing. So,
I'm not good at words either. So let's go.
Yeah, no, I love that analogy of the table or the chair, right? A 3-legged table, just it doesn't hit. And so I think when you get these 4 pillars put in place, you will start to see growth that you go, oh yeah, now this is working. This is worth my time, and this is stepping into what we need it to. So let's just talk down through these 4 pillars of podcasting that we've put together. And the first pillar is going to be the purpose. This might be considered your why. And really what it comes down to when this purpose pillar is like, what are you promising to people that you are going to help them with? And what we often see with podcasts, and I know I've fallen victim of this. If, we're a few episodes into this podcast, if you go back to the first few episodes, you might go, Darren, you're not doing that. Guilty as charged. Okay. But ultimately, the purpose or the promise that you're offering to somebody, it's one person, it's one promise. And ultimately, that's going to be the purpose of your podcast, right? It's going to be the driving force, specific down to the nitty gritty. Because often what we find is we have this vague understanding of what the podcast is about. Like even the title of your podcast should lean to what it is that we're about to step into, right? Like we landed on coaching with content for this podcast because we believe that you can coach, you coaches and consultants out there, you can coach through your content. And that's the reason that you spend time doing that. And so like when you come across that title, you go, oh, that makes sense. Okay, I can coach through my content, or I'm a coach and I want to create more content. You're going to lean towards that. It's just speaking out to your ideal avatar, if you will. And we are going to talk about content. We're going to talk to coaches, and we are going to help you win with video. Like that's even in our tagline, right? And so that's ultimately what we try to do. And so for you and your podcast, what is your purpose? What is the thing that you are offering to people that, hey, if you come in to listen here, you're going to have this outcome. You're going to have this understanding. You're going to have this ability. And so that's really the first pillar that we need to step into. So Dustin, as we talk about the purpose or the why or the promise of these podcasts, what can we help people understand with that? Like, how does that hit you, I guess?
Yeah, I think what you need to understand whenever you're talking about why, in whatever context it is, whether it be a podcast or a boardroom or a parenting situation, whenever you're talking about why, is you have to be consistent about restating that why constantly. So if we're saying the first pillar is purpose, you really should be starting every episode with the purpose of it, and the purpose of the podcast, right? Hey, we're here to help coaches and consultants win with video. Boom. That's what we're doing. Boom. So my podcast, easy. I'm here to help creative agencies scale in their processes and systems. Boom. So it's like it's an easy, it should be one sentence. If it can't fit on a napkin, it's too much.
Yeah.
Right. But you have to constantly say it over. And what we always say about the why or the vision or the purpose is that the moment that you get sick of hearing yourself say it is just about the time that people are starting to catch it.
That's right.
So if you're not sick of hearing yourself say it yet, then you haven't been saying it enough.
Yeah. Yeah. Man, I'm guilty of that. I know that so many times I go to say a phrase or the thing and I'm like, oh, I've said that 100 times. You know, and so I talk myself out of it before I even get there. And ultimately what you're saying is it takes us saying it a ton, even before somebody even starts to listen to it.
Starts to hear it. Hearing and listening are two different things, right? I can hear something, but I might not be listening, right? We all know that when maybe our significant other is telling us about something and we might hear them, but we're not really listening, right? I don't do that, and Darren doesn't do that. But we know people that do it for sure. It's I've
seen a guy once.
I've seen it happen.
Yeah. I love this thought along the lines of listening, Dustin, is your audience should be able to say this about your podcast, that I listen to this show because, right? They should be able to say that. I listen to this show because they help me win with video. And like Dustin, your podcast and your example that you help bring clarity to the chaos of kind of the creative life and the creative mind, right? And so I love that little sentence. Can you say that, you listener today, can you say that your audience is able to finish that sentence? I listen to this show because if not, you have more of just kind of a him haul show, a variety show, or just, you're throwing stuff against the wall to see what sticks, right?
Yeah. Caveat too, just this is my stump talk for, thanks for coming to my 30-second TEDx talk.
Let's go.
There's nothing wrong with a podcast purpose being strictly for entertainment. I know that's not what we're talking about
100.
With content, but like I'm trying to think through the podcasts that I listen to on a regular basis. And there are a couple, they're like, if I said I listen to this podcast because there's a couple of them out there that like, I listen to this podcast because it's entertaining. There's nothing wrong with being entertaining.
As long as that's the defined purpose of the podcast. As
long as that's the defined purpose is to entertain.
Exactly. Exactly. It's like, I mean, I to your point, there are a lot of podcasts that I listen to for the entertainment value.
One that I listen to literally says, we're here to entertain a nation.
Yeah.
Like that's what they say.
And now you understand exactly what it is that they're trying to do.
Yeah. Right? So if I'm entertained, I'm like, well, that's what I'm here for.
Yeah. 100%. 100%. But that's a great
example. You go into IHOP, right? And you're looking for tacos.
Yeah. Doesn't work.
You're like, you're in the wrong spot.
Yeah. And every time that they try to roll out those tacos, it just doesn't work.
All right, go ahead. I'm getting us off. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah. That's good. That's good. So, hey, if you listener today, if you're going, man, I need some help with defining my purpose, my why, my promise, reach out to us. Head on over to Instagram. Both Dustin and I are there. Mine is Darren Andrew Cooper, Darren Andrew Cooper, all one word. Reach out. We'd love to help you. Dustin, you are Dustin Peed, Pead, right?
Yes, sir.
Your name is so like unique that you just get to use your first and last name and that's it.
It's true.
You're cool like that, man. That's awesome.
Appreciate it.
So yes, if you need help with that, reach on out to us, head on over to Instagram. We'd be glad to have those conversations with you. With that said, let's move to pillar number 2. So we have our purpose, right? The purpose of our podcast. We have a strict format, whether that's entertainment, whether that's video, whether that's business coaching, whether it's knitting,
systems, clarity, all the stuff.
Systems, underwater basket weaving, whatever it is, right? Womp womp. Anyway, all right. The second one is going to be the packaging. This might be like, really? We're going to talk about the package of the podcast, but this is something I've really gotten into here recently, especially in the YouTube world. And I don't know if you know this, Dustin. We've talked about it, so you probably know it, but YouTube has become one of the largest, if not the largest, podcasting platform out there. And so audio, yes, great. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, those are wonderful platforms, and you should be on there. But ultimately, YouTube is a huge juggernaut of podcasting. I've watched more podcasts sitting in my living room in the last 2 years than I have in my whole entire life. And that just speaks to the fact that platform is huge. And so when you talk about this type of platform, if you're anything like me, you're scrolling through YouTube looking for something to watch, something to catch your eye. You're looking at a few things. You're looking at the title. You're ultimately looking at the thumbnail, right? What catches your attention? What catches your eye to get you to stop and go, ooh, what is that? You look at the title, and then you decide if that's something that you're interested in to click into, right? So this is what we're talking about with the packaging. We're talking about the thumbnail, the title, and then ultimately the description a little bit, right? But those things are going to make up this pillar, this packaging pillar. And if you get this right, if you learn to put this together in the right way, you're going to be literally, you'll be like, holy crap, why didn't I do this sooner? And I heard a story. I was listening or watching a podcast on my TV. I think it was this morning, actually. And somebody was talking about a recent author that spent upwards of like 200 grand, I think it was, on the cover of their new book that was coming out. Mm-hmm. 200 grand, like that's almost a house, right? Like that is some houses. And it's like, why would they spend so much money on the cover of their book? Well, ultimately that cover is the thing that gets somebody to pick it up, to open it, to read the little description about it, and ultimately decide if that's for them or not. And if somebody that is spending all that time and effort into writing and crafting this narrative and this story spends that much on the cover of their book, shouldn't we actually think about the thumbnails and the titles and the descriptions and the things that we put into our videos and our podcast episodes? I say, yeah, that's a huge aspect of what we need to be doing. And so with that pillar, Dustin, have you walked in and looked through YouTube and seen and gone, I'm not watching that, or the other way of, yeah, that's for me? What has that been like?
Yeah, a couple things I'll say there. Number one, if your content is worth watching, then make it easy to find. Mm-hmm. And that's what we're talking about here when we're talking about packaging. You may not want to admit this, but most of us in today's society, including myself, we buy books based on the cover.
Yeah, 100%.
I shop at the grocery store and I choose what I'm going to buy based on the what? Packaging.
Packaging.
Yep. Mm-hmm. I choose on the where we're going to go eat at. I hop on their Instagram and I look at their feed.
Yep.
That's their packaging. Right.
Yep.
And so I think we need to understand that that's the society we live in. And when it comes to like full on deep relationships, that's obviously different. But what we're talking about here is consuming content. And there's so many endless choices. If the world is filled with billions of people and everybody has a podcast, that's billions of podcasts. Mm-hmm. Right. So there's so many options. Yep. So if you have a message for a certain purpose, like we talked about in the first pillar, then you need to make it easy to find and easy to resonate. And if you can make it easy to find, easy to resonate, that means you got your packaging right.
Yep.
That's what we're talking about here in the second pillar.
Yeah. I was joking with you earlier when you said the grocery store. It was like I was talking to a buddy this week about going and buying a bottle of wine on the shelf, and it was like,
we don't know what we're doing.
We have no idea. There's so many things. There's so many options. Price, or there's these little numbers that say like 92. It's like, well, is that good? I don't know. We have no idea what we're doing. And so we were laughing about the fact that all of our choices are based on the label alone. And that so speaks to exactly what you're talking about here. Was like you go to the grocery store, you're like, well, that one looks cool. Oh, I like the design of that one better than this one, so I'm going to go with that. And ultimately, we say don't judge a book by its cover, but ultimately, that's exactly what we do, and that's how we get into whatever it is. And so I think that's huge, and it's easily overlooked. I know that I've fallen guilty of that, of just like, oh, it's good enough. Oh, that title's fine enough. Like, I don't dig a little bit deeper. I don't try a little harder. I don't examine it enough. I just kind of go, ship it. Let's be done. And I think with this being such a strong pillar of the foundation of your podcast, like we gotta make it a priority. So even just stopping for a few minutes and going, would a stranger click on this? Would this title speak to me directly? And if the answer is no, redesign it. Try something different. Reach out to a designer or get some. There's a ton of people designing thumbnails and different things of that nature. Bounce things off of your friends and family. What do you think about this? Does this catch your eye? Like, all those things are going to ultimately help you make sure that this pillar is put in place. Hey, quick pause here. If you are thinking about starting a podcast or have already started one and it's not driving business results like you would like it to, we would love to help. At 1898 Creative, we install a proven podcast system, a strategy that helps you leverage your message to attract premium clients without adding more to your plate. So if you're ready to turn your podcast into an authority engine, book a call over at 1898creative.com and let's build something awesome together. All right, now let's get back to the conversation. Any other thoughts, Dustin, on that before we go to pillar number 3?
No, I'm ready for pillar number 3. And if you haven't noticed already, we're talking about the 4 pillars of podcasting and making it perfect. We got a little alliteration going on here. So what's our third P?
Ooh, I'm glad you asked. So we have the purpose, we have the packaging, and now we have the positioning. I love it. I love when a purpose-filled I can't think of another. Anyway, I love when it all comes together like this, Dustin.
A purpose-filled plan.
Ooh, there it is. Man, it's so good. So the positioning. So one thing that every episode or everything you should do when it comes to content, you hear people talk about the hook. You hear people talk about the first 60 seconds. You hear people talk about those elements that kind of draw people in. And you might go, it's not worth it. Let's just slap on, a piece of the podcast from somewhere in the middle at the front, and let's just go with that. And that's fine. But ultimately, your positioning is going to be what keeps people. What happens often in podcasting is, if you look at your analytics, you'll probably see it, is that it'll start off strong and then you'll see people just dropping off, right? Your retention is not very good. And when that happens, one of the best things that you can look at is, can I position this in a stronger way with that first 60 seconds?
Position the topic, position the episode.
Exactly. So usually how this can come together is you can say, here's the problem and here's the solution, or here's the problem. Actually, I have a way. I wrote it down here because I was like, that's good. So for your hook or your first part of your positioning, you can do, here's the pain. Man, there's a P too, Dustin. I didn't even think about that. There's the pain.
There's P everywhere.
There's the promise. There's the pain and there's the promise, right? Oh man, we are getting this P everywhere. Oh
there's
man,
P everywhere.
There's P everywhere. Oh, it's so good. So here's the pain. and here's the promise. So if you are still watching this episode, it probably started off with something like, most podcasts fail, not because your content is bad, but because your strategy is broken. So that's the pain, right? That's the pain you're feeling. So the promise is, today I'm giving you the 4 pillars of podcasting. So today I'm giving you the 4 pillars of podcasting that will make your podcast finally generate real business results. Boom. Pain, promise, dive into the episode, right? And so that's an easy way of positioning your podcast, because now when I've clicked on your episode, you've hooked me in, you've positioned yourself in a way of like, I need that help. I need you to walk me through that. And ultimately I'm going to stick around longer because you've told me up front where we're headed and how I'm going to get there.
Yeah, and this might be something that messes up the beginning of your podcast. And if it's not for this episode, maybe it's for another episode. But something that I've seen too when I'm consuming podcast content, we talk about this positioning, and we talk about the hook, and we talk about the first 60 seconds. The idea here, if you're like, what's kind of the rule I need to follow? We talked about the pain and what was the other P that you said? The pain and the promise, right? Or the solution, right? But ultimately, just get to the point. Just get to the point. Give away the full. Another point. Yeah, get to the point. It's a P. Give away the full strategy up front. Now, I don't know if we'll do this in post-production. You will know by the time you've gotten to this point in the podcast. But really, like in the first, I would say, minute or two of this podcast, like, we really need to just tell you, these are the 4 P's. These are the 4 pillars, and we're gonna break them down for you. Right. So, hey, if you need to hear an explanation, you'll stick around. And I would, like, if I heard, hey, the four pillars of every podcast are the purpose, the package, the positioning, and the pitch, I could probably figure that out, but I'd rather not think for myself, because it's 2025 and I'd rather have someone else do the thought. They've already put the thought into it to make this entire episode. And it sounds like something I could probably glean from. I'm probably really good on my purpose, but maybe I could use some help with the packaging and the positioning, and feel like I'm pretty good at my pitch. And so you're going to start listening to the whole episode. Right. And so you're giving them it's like to give away the strategy stuff for free, because ultimately, as a coach or a consultant, it's not that people aren't buying your strategy. They're buying your help with implementing that strategy. Right. The strategies are a dime a dozen. They're everywhere. Right. Even these
Jack can give you a strategy.
Even these 4 P's are curated from years of experience of Darren and I doing this stuff. Right. It's there's nothing original about these 4 P's. It's just, we've learned that, hey, when we strip everything down, it's these 4 pillars. Right. These are the 4 things that make a successful podcast every single time. It's proven. You can look it up. You can see the research yourself. What we're going to do is we're going to talk to you about the implementation of these 4 P's. It's not just the strategy. So if you look at your podcast in that way, the strategy should be right up front. Give away the whole strategy right up front. Then spend the rest of the podcast, especially if we're talking about coaching or consulting, spend the rest of the podcast on how do you implement that strategy.
Unpacking, implementation, all that kind of stuff.
Unpacking.
Pack it.
More P.
More P's. Everybody's going to be like, okay, they've just stopped.
I actually got to go to the bathroom now. So
I know. It's weird how that works.
So much P going on.
But yeah, no, I love that that idea, Dustin, because it's a very small portion of the podcast, right? It's this beginning little element. It can seem, you can easily just go, it's not that important. It's not that big of a deal. It's not, what does it matter? People, they should know how good I am, or something like that, right? But ultimately, this is the thing that just hooks them in and draws them across, so that they get to you unpacking that piece and walking them through it. And that's where the gold is, right?
Yeah. And we've talked before many times on this podcast already, in the short episode count that we have so far, but we've talked a lot about 1898's CCOS process, or the content creation operating system process. By you giving the strategy away in the first 60 seconds, guess what you have? You
What?
have micro content.
Boom.
You have a short or a reel or a clip that immediately says, this is my strategy.
Yeah, that's so true.
You already have it. You
And
don't
even
even have to
thinking
think about
about
like,
it in that
hey, what do
realm,
I
right?
cut up in this episode? Like
Yeah.
your
There it
hook
is.
at the beginning, your positioning should be one of your first clips to come out of every episode.
And isn't that a great way of looking at it too, Dustin? Is basically what you just said there is, we've spent a lot of time trying to craft and curate these short form pieces of content over time, right?
Yeah.
Some of us have gotten really good at that in these 60-second sound bites of hitting them with some good information. So what does that look like to take that skill that you've generated over the last few years, and now that becomes your first part of whatever the episode is?
Yep.
And I've never thought of it that way, Dustin, but that's actually really, really genius. So you put that at the beginning, logo bump hits, you're into the episode now where you're kind of walking them through that, you're unpacking that whole piece, and you're leading them through into a deeper conversation, ultimately building trust with them because you're like, man, this guy really knows his stuff. He knows how to break this down. He knows how to put it together. And that's so, so beautiful. So yeah, thank you for that. That's a good nugget right there that we need to keep around.
All right, let's get to the last P.
Yeah. All right. The fourth and final. Dustin's already kind of hinted at it, but I'm here for it. So you got the purpose, you got the packaging, you got the positioning, and now we're going to talk about the pitch. Something that I know a lot of us struggle with, even those of us that are building businesses and trying to get people to engage with us, is that what we do is we do not give enough calls to action. We don't, or if we do, it's very confusing on where it is and what we're doing and which link to click and where are we going and how's this going to be put together. We make it very, very confusing. And so ultimately your fourth pillar to make this thing work is the pitch. Clear, concise, simple calls to action that will allow people to ultimately do business with you. Because that is the one thing that we always say around here is that your podcast is not to be, the 1% of 1%, right? It's really to craft and build an audience that is your target ideal client. And then in that, you sponsor your product, your service, the thing that you do sponsors your podcast, right? And that becomes the calls to action that you are driving them to. So somebody might be listening to your podcast and consuming your good free content and using that in their own business, but ultimately you're inviting them into a way of working with you. There's a time that in the middle of the podcast that, hey, just want to interrupt this conversation real quick to tell you about XYZ, right? And inviting them into deeper levels of engagement with you. And so when you get your pitch right and you can drive people to the thing that you do, now all of a sudden your podcast becomes a business generating thing for you. And maybe you have 150 views on your episode. But ultimately, you have clients coming in the door, booking calls with you and doing business with you because of the work of your podcast. So that's why we always say we're not here to chase vanity metrics. We're not here to make you the 1% of the 1%. We are going to help you find your ideal client, your avatar. We're going to put this in front of them, and then we're going to call them to action over time. Simple, clean, and easy. Hey, come work with me. Hey, come work with me. And ultimately your business grows because of the podcast that you put together.
Yeah, I agree. I think when I think about the pitch here at the end of the episode, if you will, a lot of people are like, well, I don't really know what to pitch, or we're uncomfortable with the pitch.
Mm-hmm.
Number one, keep it simple. Don't overcomplicate it. Right. Hey,
Yep.
it's easy. Go to dustinp.com, click on the Let's Chat button, and hop on my calendar.
Yep.
Boom. That's it. Right.
Yep.
But we've talked about the what. We've given them the strategy up front, right?
Mm-hmm.
In our positioning. And we've spent the whole rest of the episode talking about the how to implement that strategy, right? The implementation. But people will often, like, how many times have you seen, hey, I see the end result of the recipe. I see the end result of the meal. You've given me the recipe to follow, but ultimately I would really just love it if you cooked it for me.
Yeah. 100%.
So that's where the pitch comes in, is like, hey, we've talked about strategy, we talked about the implementation. If you would like help implementing this yourself, that's the pitch for every podcast that has that we're trying to get our listeners to. If it's beyond entertainment, right?
Yeah.
Even the entertainment ones, we're like, hey, we want you to like and subscribe, right? Like that's, hey, we want you to follow. Hey, we want you to tell your friends.
Yeah.
Right. But at the end of the day, it's like, it's if you're a coach or consultant, what you're after at the end of every podcast is you're saying like, look, you may be listening to this and go, you know what, you're right. This is what we need to be doing, but I don't have the time or the energy or the capability or the mental capacity to take this on. I need someone to help me do this. That's when you go, great. Well, I'm going to reach out to Darren at 1898 and he's going to do our video content for us. Great. I'm going to reach out to Dustin at Chief Creative and they're going to help us implement these strategies of processes and systems in our agency. Boom, 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 boom. Like it's an easy, you've given them the whole thing, but that's why meal kits are still so popular.
Yeah,
right.
So true.
Right. People were like, hey, I understand that this meat and potato recipe would probably be really tasty, but I don't even have the brain power to figure out how. You know, what'd be great is if I could just pay you to mail me those ingredients.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that I don't even have to go out and get them.
That makes me think of, like I was chopping an onion the other day for my recipe and I was like, man, I should have bought chopped onion. Like my eyes are burning. You know, like that was my thought of just like, I wish somebody would have done this. And now I could have done that for, a little bit more at the grocery store, right?
Yeah.
But it's just like, it speaks directly to that idea that you're sharing. It's just like, oh, I wish somebody would have done this for me.
Yeah. You know this to be true. You, Darren, me, every listener, watcher of this episode knows it to be true that if it's a big enough problem that we want to solve, we are willing to throw money at it in order to solve it. 100%. And there's nothing shameful about that. No. Right. We're buying back our time with our money in every transaction that we make. Right. Yeah. Darren, if he had bought the chopped onions, he's buying back the 30, 45 seconds that he would have had to be able to chop the onions.
I'm buying back the eye burn that I hate too. The eye burn.
Buying back the eye burn. Right. You got to learn how to cut the onion without the eye burn. I have a secret tip on that. I'll tell you about off the air. I've tried that my wife showed me. But like we're willing to pay for the solution to be implemented. Yeah. Right. Hey, we're a one vehicle family. We need a second vehicle. I'm willing to pay the money to get the second vehicle. Right. It's like there's all these different, we see it every single day in our life. It's no different here. So don't think about the pitches being this like, I got you moment. Right. It's not a gotcha moment. It's just an offer.
It's an invitation.
We are willing to help. This is what we do for a living. If you would like someone to help you with this, contact us here.
Yep. 100%. It's an invitation into something deeper. And the idea even like, right, you've kind of laid this out, and podcast production and management and all of that is what we do here at 1898. And so if you would be interested in having somebody do that for you, just head on over to 1898.com, reach out to us. We will make sure that you get your podcast taken care of. I just did it. Right. That's the example of that. And I think,
have a great week, everybody. Thanks for listening to the podcast.
Yep. Yeah, we'll see you later. Thank you. But in that there is one piece of caution that I want to make sure that we're aware of is that, what I see with a lot of podcasts that, that push against even some of the positioning and different things that we've talked about is you have your calls to action very quickly in the episode. It's before like anybody gets to know you at all. You're just like, hey, buy my thing. Now, a lot of big podcasters do that. A lot of people make that a thing. And if we are a small growing podcast and the first thing we try to do is sell, it's a little bit of a turnoff. So what I typically say is how can you get a little bit of trust built up before you position anything? And I think the first way is how Dustin was saying it. Just simply dropping it in the conversations. The second way is don't put your ad read at the beginning. Put it in the middle. Put it a little bit further into the conversation or towards the end, right? And then make sure that your links are clean and clear and very understandable in the description or the show notes or wherever you're putting that. If you do those things simple and easy, just putting it there in front of people, it can be a game changer for you with people engaging with your calls to action. And so that's something to consider as well. And then, yeah, the ad read side of things, just in the middle, interrupt that conversation, offer them into or invite them into a deeper conversation or a deeper engagement with you, and then jump back into the conversation. And it's as simple as that. But I'm telling you, when you put these 4 pillars of podcasting together, it will drive business growth for you. And let's just revisit them, Dustin. Let's walk through them again just to be safe. The purpose, the packaging, the positioning, and the pitch. The purpose, the packaging, the position, and the pitch. Those are your 4 P's of podcast perfection. Yes, that's it.
Right,
as we wrap up, any final thoughts, Dustin, that you have on that front?
No, I got to go pee.
Oh, he's got to go pee. So with that being said, if you are out there, if you're looking to launch a podcast, you're looking to repurpose a podcast or repitch a podcast, we would love to talk with you at 1898. This is what we love doing. We love helping coaches and consultants win with video. And ultimately, one of the big things that we do is podcasting. That's something that we believe in. That's something that we want to continue to encourage our clients to do, as well as do ourselves. I know we're very episode low count on this podcast specifically, but we believe in it so much, we're investing in it ourselves. And hopefully we can be a little bit of a model for you. And eventually you'll go, hey, I want to do something like that. And you can reach out to us. So head on over to 1898creative.com. You can connect with us there, or head on over to Instagram. Darren Andrew Cooper is where you'll find me. That's 2 R's and an E, not like some of those weird people that spell it wrong. So Darren, Andrew Cooper. Dustin, Peed, Pead. Reach out to us, connect with us. We could say that cool, like DM us podcast, and we'll get with you. We don't have that set up, but we could if we wanted, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Anyway. With that being said, I want you to remember this, that your voice matters in this world more than you know. And that I want you to do the hard work of bringing that out, of sharing your ideas, of sharing your thoughts, and of creating your art, because we need you in this world more than you know. So go out there and create your art this week. And we will see you next time on the Coaching with Content podcast. Peace.